All right, let's just talk about consumption, right? So, no fake deep quotes. This is not scripted or anything, but let's just talk. I am 22, I'm a Gen Z guy, and I literally buy nothing. Like, my consumption is probably much lower than most people, and that's not because I can't, but because I don't want to. And it's not like I'm trying to retire early or doing all of these things either. I do have respect for those sorts of movements and beliefs, but my personal inclination to not spending is more so around the structures that actually make businesses create products and services, and what I see when I'm purchasing things from them. Now, I'm going to drop some very common statistics or anecdotal evidence. We're literally the most marketed to generation in history, at least Gen Z, right? And I'm going to focus on Gen Z because that's where I can relate the most. Everyone and everything is trying to convince us that we need more, whether that's more clothes, more tech, more skincare, more whatever, right? Like the latest iPhone. If you don't have that, you're ridiculed maybe by some of your friends, or you think that you're not as cool, whatnot. And there's a lot. That's just one example, but there's so many other reasons as to why people just buy things, and companies exploit that human desire in us, right? Like, at the end of the day, we're humans, and there's only a few things we like want. We want status, we want food, power, just to name a few things, because historically this is what has enabled our ancestors. These traits have enabled our ancestors to survive in the wild and will pass down their DNA to us. And that's how all of these companies operate. They operate on exploiting our like base primal instincts, so to speak. Now, the thing is, all of these structures and companies around us, right? Instagram, Google, YouTube, Amazon, the entire model runs on advertising us random products that we don't even need at the end of the day, and us buying them. And the crazy thing is, it works. My generation especially chases trends like they're gonna save us or something, right? You're checking out the latest pair of baggy jeans from Weekday or Astro or whatever, or again, like I mentioned, the latest iPhone, just things like that. The truth is that despite us being told that these are products that we need and that that are going to improve our life, they rarely do. And there's a lot of studies that have been done about this, right? The anticipation to actually purchasing something, regardless of what it is in fact more pleasurable in the sense of the dopamine hit that we get than actually owning the product. And after you do own that product, your wallet has taken some from like a very minor to a massive hit, which is a whole other problem. And this kind of cyclical pattern, you're chasing that next high, that next purchase, it's very difficult to break out of once you get into it, because it leaves you feeling that you need more and more and more. And eventually that's what I realized. Right now, I'm not saying that I personally am a very spendthrifty person. I was always very careful about my finances, because that's just what I was taught by my parents, and this kind of discipline has just stuck throughout with me in life. But that's not to say that I didn't buy a bunch of dumb stuff. When Temu first came out, I was like, dropping like 10-15 pounds on useless things that I never needed. Even on Amazon, a bunch of like unnecessary purchase here and there. So again, I'm human at the end of the day, and that's just what I did. But I learned from those experiences that I'm getting much less in value than what I'm paying for, right? And to divide this into few sections, I first want to talk about the opportunity cost of your time and money. Second, I want to talk about like the effect on the planet, and the third is the effect that it has on making us want to buy more and more things. So very early on, I realized that money buys two things. It's either convenience or comfort, right? And we do need like a certain baseline amount, if there's no doubt about that. But when you're spending on stupid stuff on Amazon or Temu, for example, and I don't know, upgrading your phone after just a year, at least these are things that I think are stupid. You may disagree with me depending on your use case. You are trading X amount of dollars that you spend on that divided by whatever your hourly rate is, right? That's basic opportunity cost. Let's say you're working minimum wage, for example. You're making 15 bucks an hour in the US or wherever you are, and maybe like around 150 a day. So a days of work, like $100 to $150, buys you a tenth of an iPhone, for example, an iPhone 16 or whatever. Just think about that for a second, right? You're spending a whole day to get a tenth of that kind of product. And you can extend this metaphor to everything else, right? You're spending half a day to buy the new pair of jeans that you really wanted. You're spending, like, I don't know, an hour's worth to eat out at a restaurant, things like that. And this really is a good comparison in helping you understand what you're really giving up, right? You're giving up time, which is arguably the most valuable resource that every person has on this planet, and you're using it to buy those things. And that's without putting any kind of notion on it that it's good or bad. And the second thing that I want to talk about with this is impact on the planet, right? E-commerce, whether you love it or hate it, is definitely affected our planet for the worse because of deliveries taking up more fuel, more emissions. And second of all, these products that we often buy we use them maybe a few times or just get them for novelty and then we toss them, right? The clothing industry is notorious for the amount of waste that it produces. And this cycle, like, just always continues, especially if you first decide to get stuck into it. And that brings me to my third point. Whenever you buy something, you're honestly buying a problem more than a solution, because you end up wanting to buy more things for it. Let's take an iPhone for an example, right? Like, you just upgraded your iPhone, I don't know, like 2 years ago or something, and you're thinking, oh, I need a case and a screen protector, obviously, to protect it. And then that's what you get. But then you realize, oh, well, there's more accessories that I've been advertised to on Instagram or TikTok shop. I can get that pop socket holder or something like that, and maybe in a cool design or something. The cycle just keeps continuing. You keep buying things for that problem that you've bought. And I've experienced this as well, right? This might not be directly relatable to a lot of you, but when I first built my gaming PC, I thought that, okay, well, I have all of this stuff. Well, I probably should upgrade my keyboard or something because it's like a pretty cheap $20 keyboard from Amazon and might break. And then you think, oh, well, if I'm going to play console game, I might need a controller, and then you buy a controller and the cycle continues. Luckily, I caught up on my behaviors relatively early on, and I cut the problem off at the source. And this kind of realization has really profound impacts on your finances and also your decisions as a person, I think, because that kind of discipline, the critical thinking that you need to use to evaluate whether something's a good purchase or not, it has a lot of other parallels in life, right? Like, just having those skills to evaluate the pros and cons for something as stupid as buying a new iPhone or like a new pair of jeans can be really useful in your career, for example, especially if you're deciding between two options that you think that a strategic direction that your company should take, maybe hire that you have to do, or even in terms of relationships with people. Do you think that what you're putting into, like, a relationship with a friend, your boyfriend or girlfriend, something like that, is actually worth it for you? And that's probably the most useful thing that I've learned from just not consuming is those critical thinking skills, and obviously the benefit that it's had on my finances. So those are the three broad categories that I think consumption kind of has like a negative effect on us, and also how it keeps fueling itself. So we have the impact on the world, of course, our planet. Then we have the cycle of keep on wanting to buy things, and then the opportunity cost of, like, your time. And this goes. There's a lot of other things that I can add to this list, right? But I think for me, those are the few important categories when it comes to spending money. And not spending money necessarily, but buying things, buying objects, right? We've all heard the age-old adage, like, you're spending money to impress people you don't know, trying to keep up with people who aren't even happy themselves. And stopping that is just a huge relief, almost, so to speak. Now, on a related note on this topic, our generation, Gen Zs, probably has some significant financial challenges ahead of us, especially if you're living in the West, because it's marketed more. So housing prices are insane in this current day and age. We need almost, in the UK, for example, the average house price is up to 9 times the average income, median income. In the US, slightly better, about 6 to 7 times. And you can see a similar story unfold everywhere else, right? The cost of transportation, just sustaining yourself by eating food, all of these needs have gone up, but we've seen every single want on this planet go down. Yet that want is what's advertised to us more, and this is a really pressing problem for us because it's so much easier to want to spend your money on a brand new iPhone or like a brand new I don't know, like a brand new desk or whatever, rather than actually thinking that, oh well, I have to spend this on my rent or my groceries or my bills or something like that. And that appeal, I think, is what drives a lot of us into being hand to mouth, and that is not an ideal situation to be in, which is a whole separate discussion on its own. But what I'm trying to get at here is we're living in a world in which every single company wants to get some sort of revenue from us, right? And on top of that, all these massive corporations are earning significantly, like they're huge behemoths earning significantly more than the average employee, yet they pay us like 2 to 5% of that entire company's gross revenue, and then we're also taxed on top of it. And let's not forget, the product that you're buying also has some tax that you pay. So we're getting taxed like in almost 3 to 4 different ways, and that's not necessarily some kind of call for entrepreneurship or something like that, right? Because that excess return was generated through risk. If there was no risk, there would be no a reason for the companies to exist today, because there would be no dedicated risk or reward behavior. And that I don't want to get too much into that, but again, I just want to come back to the point that we are being advertised to consume from all directions. I just think that it's a load of rubbish, and I choose not to do so for the reasons that I'd mentioned earlier. And again, finances, the opportunity cost of your time, the trap of consumption, it all just is a boulder rolling down a hill at like 120 miles per hour or something. Now, how can you actually go about implementing this in your life if you want to, right? I think it requires a careful study of what you want from life. Personally, I think I like to use my money to get experiences as opposed to objects, because experiences at the end of the day, I think, propel me forward in my thinking, in my career, in my relationships with people, which are much lower cost as well than a lot of other material things that you can spend on. And experiences are often cheap or free, right? Like walking around a park, for example, or just going for a run, going for a jog, meeting up with a few friends of yours, and like sharing that social connection. Those experiences are almost priceless to many people. And it's a good philosophy for a lot of people to implement, because I think, having been on both sides at various phases of my life, when I was spending more on material things versus experiences, I generally think I was much happier spending on experiences, right? And I'm not saying stop buying your $3 coffee every day before work, things like that, but share that experience with another person, for example, or do something new. Don't just keep falling into this trap that I'm gonna always buy all of these things and never and then cop out when it comes to spending on actual experiences. And there's even an entire other debate to be had on what experiences are worth it and whatnot. And there's a lot of there's a huge variety in the cost of experiences as well. But I'll save that for another day. The end all or be it all of this is that experiences are better from a spiritual and satisfaction point of view, and they are often can be found for much cheaper than buying things which quickly lose their value in our minds. So before you click off this video, if you're still watching, I think if you're someone like me, right? You're like a Gen Z adult. You likely have experienced many of the problems when it comes to marketing and overconsumption, whether it's TikTok Shop, Instagram, Snapchat, whatever these platforms we use. Watching YouTube itself is probably one of the worst things you can do for your finances, because every single person is advertising something for you to buy. I think some real strategies to delay consumption that I use is, one, I create a business case for any type of, which sounds kind of dumb and nerdy if I think about it, but creating a business case for any significant purchase, right? If it costs me something if it's something that costs me a significant amount of money and doesn't really bring any benefit that I can't already have, I weigh out the pros and cons and I think about it. Then I also have a 30-day waiting period for buying anything that's more than $30, because sorry, not 30, more than 100 pounds for me, because I think it's a good cooling period to decide if you really want something and whether it's going to bring value to your life. I'm not saying, like, deprive yourself of all material possessions. Obviously, consume here and there, but do it within your limits, and also knowing what you're foregoing in the process as well. And this seems to work for me, but feel free to tweak it to whatever you like. And then at the same time, you don't want to be spending a significant amount of mental effort thinking about, oh, should I buy this, should I buy that. Usually another rule of thumb I like to follow is, if some sort of product or service buys you convenience and it costs less than a fourth of your hourly income, then just buy it. It's not worth thinking about, like, saving a pound here or 2 pounds there, things like that. Just if it's saving you time in that, if it's saving you time equivalent to a quarter of your hourly salary, just go for it. But these are, again, strategies that I use. The other thing I also really like to do is almost romanticize the old things that I have, so have a better relationship with the things I have, because I've a lot of my personal effects have been with me for like a long time. Literally my favorite pair of jeans that I own, I've had them for God knows how long, and I've taken good care of them and they still look decent. So that's something that I really like, holding on to, even though there are all of these other brands and types of jeans that I can buy. The same thing can be said for your phone, even your laptop. My laptop, for example, is an older MacBook Air, but it works for what I need to do. I need to type on it. I need to watch YouTube videos sometimes, or Netflix and Google Docs, all of the stuff. It handles it like a champ. So I don't have a need to upgrade a lot of my expensive tech, so to speak. So I think that's another really useful strategy. But overall, if you did find this video, if you agreed with this video and you found it useful, let me know what you think, because I feel this is a pretty big problem in our capitalist society. And you can either play the game as it is, and I don't want to make decisions for anyone or judgments, but I would feel exploited by the system if I did play into it. Or you can try to make a change and make your life the way you want it, because you do have that freedom, even though there's a lot of forces convincing you to live it otherwise. So that's my 2 cents on consumption.